Marquette Law School released a new poll today showing 81% of the people that they spoke to think that Wisconsin should have red flag laws. Now, this comes a day after the U.S. Senate cleared the first hurdle to passing a bipartisan gun reform package, which would include millions of dollars for states that implemented red flag laws. Ben Jordan goes 360 on the subject.
Red flag laws typically allow family members or law enforcement to ask the court system to temporarily remove firearms from someone deemed to be a danger to themselves or others. But this political issue is a polarizing one here in Wisconsin. Since Wisconsin is among the majority of states without red flag laws, let's go 360 to hear from a variety of perspectives about whether that should change. A national organization pushing for stricter gun laws. A local gun store shares what it would mean for required background checks. A gun rights advocate outlines his concerns about who could raise the red flag. But we start with an educator who's fed up with shootings taking lives in Milwaukee. Do you think Wisconsin should have red flag laws?
I believe that on paper, it's a plausible and decent idea. But I'm no stranger to how things may look good on paper, but in practice, they're kind of administered a bit differently.
Mark Peterson launched a clothing line called Why We Still Killing Each Other to inspire an end to gun violence through fashion. He believes family members should be able to petition a judge to have guns removed from loved ones who have made credible threats to kill someone. But he's worried about potential disparities Black and brown people may face if law enforcement has the same ability.
So it's less about the family members making that opportunity to get that gun taken, and more so a concern of law enforcement now having that opportunity to say, yo, this person doesn't need this gun. What happens in that moment? What happens when the police get to the house to take the gun, right? Because although we like to hope that it's, oh, here, well, my gun's in the safe, here you go, it may not work out that way, right? It may become hostile. And now in that hostile exchange, what danger is that household now placed in?
The latest Marquette Law School poll asked hundreds of registered voters in Wisconsin whether the state should adopt red flag laws. 81% of respondents said they were in favor, showing support hasn't changed since 2019, the last time this question was polled. Nick Clark is the president of Wisconsin Carry, an organization that advocates for Second Amendment rights. Do you think red flag laws could save lives?
No, 100% no. There's this naive notion, it's kind of like a spoiled notion of Americans that think that we can prevent these kinds of crimes with a law. I mean, murder is already illegal, and it's not preventing crime.
Nick doesn't think law enforcement or family should have the right to ask a judge to temporarily have someone's firearms confiscated.
There's family members that would literally report their family member to get guns out of their hands. But who is a family member? Is that a husband, wife, step-parent?
These 19 states already have red flag laws, which are often called extreme risk protection orders. Annalisa Dickman says red and blue states have implemented them in a bipartisan manner.
We know from older experience like Indiana that's had these for several years to Connecticut that's a little newer, that not only are threats averted and suicides averted, but oftentimes the people then go on to receive mental health treatment.
Annalisa works with the Brady Campaign, an organization that advocates for federal and state policy changes to prevent gun violence. While Wisconsin does not have a red flag law, it does require people to surrender their firearms if a judge grants a restraining order against them for a domestic violence-related incident.
So in Wisconsin, we do that for those types of relationships. An extreme risk protective order would be very, very similar, but would include other types of relationships.
Adam Campbell is the firearms training director at a gun store in West Milwaukee. If Wisconsin were to implement red flag laws, a firearms owner deemed by a judge to be a danger to themselves or others would also be temporarily barred from purchasing guns.
I would say it would add to an already large burden of liability that gun stores already face.
Adam thinks red flag laws would further complicate required background checks at licensed firearm dealerships.
Gun stores must go above and beyond the standard of the law. Making a simple mistake while being within the law, not breaking the law, not observing someone, not watching somebody's car when they pull up in the parking lot, not paying attention to certain things could cause extreme liability. There's a million different hoops and red flags that a gun dealer has to jump through.
Ultimately, if this gun reform legislation passes and is signed into law by the president, states that implement red flag laws would get a portion of $750 million, which would help authorities confiscate guns and keep them secure. Reporting in Milwaukee, Ben Jordan, TMJ4 News.
All right. Meanwhile, Senator Ron Johnson said today the reason he voted against advancing the bipartisan gun law package was because it included grants for red flag measures. Now, in addition to the red flag law funding, the bill would enhance the background check process of buyers younger than 21. It would also make it harder for people convicted of domestic violence but not married to their victim to get a gun. All Democrats and 14 Republicans voted in favor of the bill, which now heads to the House.